The first form we're going to make is a coffee cup. And it's going to be in approximately this shape. It's 12 ounces, just enough volume for your daily morning coffee. So this is 12 ounces. First we're going to center the clay, and first we're going to draw up the clay in a cone. Why do you do this? Well, it gives you a sense of the texture and condition of the clay. It can also help get rid of air bubbles if you have any in here sometimes, and it can help mix the clay if you have clays of different consistency. So I'm using the bottom part of my palms to squeeze the clay a little bit, and instead of knifing it in and making a big lump on top, I'm holding it in with the upper part of the hands too, so it doesn't just pull off a lump. And up we go. When you push the clay down, push it away from yourself, so you're not pushing straight down into the mass of clay. It's a lot easier that way. Now, to center it, I use this part of my palm on the left hand to come across the top of the clay. And you can see I'm kind of slanting my hand at a bit of a 45-degree angle across here. So I think of a place over here that I'm aiming at with this hand. Notice I'm not coming down straight like that. I'm coming across the clay a little bit, and my right hand will act as a plane against which this lump of clay is being pushed down, and it'll hold the periphery in center, just like that. Now I'm using my thumb as a plane. You can also use the flat of your hand in here as a plane. It's kind of the way I learned to begin with. Or, especially with larger amounts of clay, you can use your fist. Now because the clay rotates counterclockwise, when you use your fist, keep your hands together and pull your hands around clockwise a little bit against the rotation of the clay to hold your hands steady so they don't get moved out. And this is a very nice, easy way to center. You do make rings, so you may not want to finish up that way. Anyway, basically, the whole process of throwing is lowering the clay against a plane. The plane holds the clay in center. Lowering it against that plane will pull it into center. When I open the clay, I'm using my thumb on my right hand, and the left hand thumb is going to ride on top of it to help strengthen the thumb and open the clay. And always keep your hands together, whatever you're doing, keep your hands together because they steady each other. And I'm going to cradle the clay as I come down into the middle to keep it, make sure you get a lot of water as you're going into new clay. And when I come down, I'm not just going to come down straight into a well. I'm going to spread the clay a little bit as I come down. So, how far down is enough? Well, I'm not very good at guessing this right now. So, what you can do, if you're in doubt, take your needle and your index finger and go down into the middle of the thing and put your index finger right where the clay meets the needle. And right now it is about a quarter of an inch, something like that. And that's okay. This coffee cup is not going to get trimmed, so you can go down pretty far. To open it, I come back with the left hand and the middle finger, actually kind of the two fingers, but mainly the middle finger, and I'm going to draw the clay along the bottom of the pot, straight up. And my right hand, like it's cradled like this, also keeping my hands together. It's keeping the wall from creeping up. Now I'm going to use my index finger, the middle finger rather, of the right hand to come across the bottom and smooth it out. Because it's a coffee cup, I want a pretty much of a flat bottom. Now how far out do you go with this? It looks like it's about 2 inches. You can go farther out if you want and make a cylindrical or conical coffee cup. Make sure your bottom, the floor of the pot, is tight and compact and smooth. So I go over the bottom several times just to apply gentle pressure downwards. You don't want to apply so much pressure that it pulls the clay apart, but you want enough pressure going down onto the floor to tighten it. All right, now we're ready to bring the wall up. And I was taught many, many years ago to do something like this odd clawing up. It helps get this bulk of clay up into the pot. And what I do is with my right hand, the tips of the middle finger and the index finger will grab the clay way down at the bottom and will gently draw up that excess clay up into the pot, just like that. And because it's a coffee cup, I'm going to make a slightly closed form at the top. So I'll come up in a volcano shape. How about that? Now, the first pull, you want to push in really hard at the very base and keep your sponge at the ready. And on the inside, you want to, with your index, your middle finger rather, pull out. And you see I'm making kind of a shelf or a bubble. And what you're going to do is you're going to raise that shelf or bubble all the way to the top of the pot. You're not going to squeeze it between your two fingers. You're just going to keep that inside finger above the outside finger and just lift that bubble. Essentially what you're doing is lengthening the wall of the pot. You're making an S, and when the S straightens out, you'll find that the clay of the wall has lengthened. So it's just like that. I'm going pretty slowly because this is for your, so you can see exactly what's happening. And again, pretty narrow coffee cup. So I'm going to come out a ways, and again, make a little bit of a bubble and come on up to the top. All the way to the top. When you get to the top, don't go over the top, which will make this top rim, a knife edge, come up to the top and just hold your fingers there and steady the rim. You don't want a lump of clay there, but you don't want the top rim to thin out too much. So I'm going to come up once more and try to shape this. I'm going to make a little bit of an indentation in the middle of the pot and maybe a little bit of a now this is a sponge on a stick, and so this is a you know, it's a thing you get at a Chinese restaurant, and chopstick. And this is an alligator clip. Stick it on the end of the chopstick. I'd use a little glue, and then get a really nice silk sponge for the end. You want something soft. You don't want these hard sponges, which will drag the clay on the bottom of the pot. Just clean it out a little bit. And now we're ready to kind of finish shaping the pot. And I use a metal rib to do this, and I'm going to set that down near the base and pull out a little bit And then I'll use that rib and I'll push the clay out gently onto that rib. And what it does is help shape the pot, and it also tightens the clay wall. And I don't want anything too normal looking, so we're going to put some things in here. You can use the this edge to make some rings and add a little interest. Remember, these are functional pots, but functional pots that you really like to use are not just plain pots, they're pots with interest. So they're going to have some nice features to them that make you want to use them. Now, because this is a very smooth clay, this is actually B-mix without grog, and it's very smooth. So I can just use a sponge to on the top rim to smooth it out. And it all looks pretty good. Now, I'm going to use this wonderful tool with a knife edge, and I'm going to hold it just like a pen. And as if I were going to write with it, I'm just going to push that point of the pen right down along the bottom of that pot. And that will clean up that bottom edge. And then I'm going to use the second wonderful tool, a palette knife, painter's palette knife, and stick it under there and clean up the excess clay. And now I'm going to take this off and put it on a bat. You want to make sure your hands are clean and dry. So, my nose itches. Anyway, what I need to do is cut this off, of course. When I go through the wire, I have one of these ordinary wires you get at the ceramic store. Tighten it up and hold it down on the wheelhead with your thumbs. I tend to rotate the pot so that as I pull the wire through, the pressure on the bottom of that pot is equalized all the way around, all the way around the pot, just like that. And if your hands are dry and moderately clean, you want to make a cradle with your hands and tip the pot back, and then when you set it down, tip it forward, just the way, opposite way that you took it off. So I'm going to hold this up here so you can see how this is done. Is that okay? So I'm going to tip it back and place it just like that. And see, it's pretty round. If it isn't round enough for you, you can, when it sets up a little bit, you can jiggle it. And there's the coffee cup. And this is the finished product with a handle. And that's the first part of our lesson today. So we can stop it there.